Hello and welcome to This Really Happened, a place where unbelievable, heart-touching true stories come to life. Sometimes surprising, sometimes bittersweet, always real. Grab a drink and settle in. We're about to begin. John Miller sat in his office, holding his head in his hands. This day felt endless. 20 years. 2 decades dedicated to his life's work. Surgery wasn't just a job, it was his essence. Even as a boy, he dreamed of saving human lives. So when it was time to choose his path after school, he didn't hesitate to apply to medical school. The entrance exams were no trouble for John. He always studied diligently. The exact and natural sciences came to him with astonishing ease. The years at the academy flew by fascinatingly. With a kind of almost mystical obsession, he delved into the study of anatomy, which for most of his classmates was a nightmarish labyrinth. He grasped it as if intuitively. During his first practical session, the sight of blood didn't make him faint. On the contrary, he eagerly absorbed every word from his instructors. They predicted a brilliant future for him, as few students showed such deep, genuine interest in the medical profession. It seemed that being a doctor for John wasn't just work, but a higher calling. And so it was. After his internship, Miller was assigned to the regional hospital. Incredible luck for a recent graduate. From the first days, John began to assert his right to bear the proud title of doctor. His skill was honed with every operation. They said the young man truly had golden hands. The chief physician immediately noted the young surgeon's talent. Colleagues couldn't hide their envy, not yet 30, and already performing such complex procedures. The hospital staff was divided into 2 opposing camps. Some admired Miller, seeing him as a role model, while others whispered about connections, devilish luck, and other dark forces. But whatever the case, John rapidly moved from victory to victory. He was completely indifferent to what others thought of him. The only thing that mattered to him was human life. Miller's career steadily climbed. In 20 years, he had saved thousands of lives, working almost without days off or vacations. The surgeon completely forgot about himself. He never started a family. Of his close relatives, only his mother remained, who had been his support since childhood and did everything to ensure her son confidently pursued his dream. Of course, there were women in Miller's life, but none of the relationships developed into something that could become a family. No one could endure his lifestyle. For this man, work always came first. And now, after so many years, his reputation was under attack. A patient died right on the operating table. This was the first time this had happened in his many years of practice. Everyone understood. Medical error was ruled out. Miller's skill had never been in doubt. The patient had been brought in critical condition. There was almost no chance of saving him. From a medical standpoint, his death was a natural outcome. Only a miracle could have saved that man. Alas, no miracle occurred. No matter how brilliant a surgeon Miller was, he was not God. After the failed operation, he simply went to his office and locked himself in. He didn't want to see anyone. The deceased's relatives weren't at the hospital yet, and he had to deliver the terrible news. John didn't even know how to begin. Usually, he saw faces illuminated by joy. This expression of boundless happiness gave him strength. He, a simple man, entered the fray with death and emerged victorious. But now everything was different. There was a knock at the door. John didn't react immediately. The knock repeated. Miller reluctantly got up from his desk and went to the door. Behind it stood the chief physician, a stately woman in her early 40s. Everyone feared Dr. Sarah Johnson, except for John. Once, this woman had been the love of his life. Back then, she was the clinic's leading lady, a colleague basking in the glow of fame. Serious and driven, she immediately caught the surgeon's eye. He fell in love at first sight, although he always denied such things. To his surprise, Sarah responded to his advances, and a passionate romance soon began. But even she couldn't accept the fact that the man would always put work above her. After living together for 4 years, Sarah and John broke up. Neither held a grudge. Both understood perfectly that such a choice was often inevitable in their profession. The woman remained a loyal friend to Miller. Even after becoming chief physician, she maintained a warm relationship with her former lover. But now there wasn't a trace of friendliness on her face. "Johnny," she said, looking away, "now isn't the time for talk. A man died on me. I could have saved him, and I couldn't." Miller's voice trembled. It seemed he was about to burst into tears. "All right, calm down," she cut him off sharply. "Nothing can be fixed now, and you know perfectly well it was too late to save him. It's not your fault. What's the point of self-flagellation now?" Sarah locked the office from the inside and sat on the sofa. John sat down beside her and leaned back heavily on the cushion. "I know," he exhaled, "but I can't help it. This is the first time in my entire career. I'll still blame myself. I can't help it." "That's wrong, Johnny." She placed her hand on his. "You just have to accept that you can't always save a patient." "Not always. Many doctors face this, I agree. It takes time to get through it, to reconcile, to accept. But you have to keep working. While you're suffering here, people still need you. That's what's important." "When was the last time you took a vacation anyway?" "What does that matter?" Miller asked indifferently. "It matters a lot," Sarah almost shouted, frowning. "Take at least a week off. You really need it right now. Pull yourself together. I can't let you fall into a depressed state. It will affect your performance, and God forbid, you might leave the profession. That happens too." "Never," John objected energetically. "Perhaps you're right. I'll go to the mountains. You always recover quickly there." In his youth, Miller was fond of hiking. Perhaps that was the only thing he looked forward to on weekends. Alone with nature, he quickly regained his strength and peace of mind. Sarah didn't suggest the vacation by chance. She knew exactly what he would do. "All right, don't come in starting tomorrow. I'll expect you at work on the 3rd. Go home now. Rest." "What about the relatives?" "I'll talk to them myself. It's a delicate matter. You understand." And he was a difficult man. "We're trying to reach his wife now, but her phone is off. As far as I know, she's away right now. God, I can't imagine how she'll react when she finds out her husband is gone." "Don't think about that now. All right, let me call you a taxi for now. You shouldn't drive in this state." The week flew by unnoticed. John had almost completely regained his peace of mind. Being completely alone had a beneficial effect. Miller had his own roots, unknown to anyone. When he returned from the hike, thoughts of what had happened barely bothered him. The next day, he went to work. No surgeries were scheduled for that day. He saw a few scheduled patients and spent most of the day in his office. Around 5, Dr. Sarah Johnson called him. Miller pondered death. Why? Why are some people destined for happiness, while others are doomed to fight for the right to live? Why did I choose this profession? Am I so arrogant that I dared to take on the right to battle death? I am just a man. No, I mustn't think like that. If it weren't for people like me, chaos would reign in the world. Maybe Sarah is right. I shouldn't blame myself for the inevitable. It's impossible to save everyone. What's the point of giving up now? I can still save thousands of lives. Miller stopped before the door to Dr. Johnson's office. For some reason he was afraid to enter. He had a bad feeling. "Dr. Johnson?" He peeked inside. "You called?" "Yes, come in." Sarah was sitting at her desk. She looked tired. Her usual expression of confidence had left her face. Instead of a strong woman, Miller saw before him a helpless girl who seemed to have been crying recently. The chief physician's eyes were red-rimmed. "What happened?" he asked, concerned. "John," the woman sighed, "I had a very difficult conversation this morning. Mr. Thompson's wife came." The surname somehow grated on his ears. He was surprised. "He passed away a week ago. She wasn't in the country. I had to listen to a lot." "Why didn't you call me earlier?" "I wanted to talk to her myself first, to understand how she would react to the news of her husband's death. But this woman... Anyway, she's demanding that I fire you." "On what grounds?" Miller exclaimed, outraged. "You yourself said it wasn't my fault." "We all understand that, Johnny, but what?" "But I want to talk to her myself. How can I find her?" "It's pointless. You see, this Mr. Thompson was a difficult man. His wife will do everything possible to ruin your career. I explained everything to her, but this woman, she's convinced he could have been saved. You know yourself, in such situations, it's very hard to prove otherwise." "Nonsense! There was no medical error. I did everything possible. This man was in a neglected state. If he had come in earlier, perhaps the situation could have been corrected." "Now listen, I'm on your side, but you know yourself, whoever has the power is right. This woman has connections in the Ministry of Health. She is firmly determined to see this through. If I don't fire you now, heads will roll, including mine. I can't take that risk." "You know I'll go to court. It's simply absurd to accuse me of incompetence when they themselves let it get to this point." "That's your right, but right now..." "I'm sorry, but I have to give in to her. I can't do otherwise, Johnny. Try to understand me, too." John's face twisted into a grim smile. "What does it matter where her connections are? The truth is on our side." "Alas, we live in a bureaucratic world. Here, the one who gets to the lawyers first is right." "So what's the problem? Let me hire a lawyer right now." "Listen to me, John. From my experience, I know the chances will be slim. It's your right to sue for wrongful dismissal. But right now, you need to do as I said. We don't need problems. To hell with all of you. Do what you want. I'm free." "Yes." Sarah lowered her eyes. "You can go. Don't come to work starting tomorrow. I'm very sorry. I hope things will work out." John left the office, slamming the door. "How dare they? This is outrageous. I dedicated so many years to this, just for some idiot to come along and erase everything. Yes, of course, I'll go to court. I don't care who she's connected to. I know I'm not to blame. Let them all go to hell, that bunch of cretins. Because of one death that was inevitable, hundreds more that could have been avoided might happen." John didn't even bother packing his things. He just left the office without saying goodbye to anyone. The news of the leading surgeon's dismissal would likely cause a huge stir. Despite his detractors, most of the staff liked Miller and genuinely respected him. John didn't want to explain anything to anyone. He said goodbye to his colleagues and the girls at the reception desk as usual, got into his parked car, and took a deep breath. He desperately wanted a cigarette. Miller hadn't smoked for about 7 years. He'd quit the bad habit after breaking up with Sarah. But now, from somewhere in his subconscious, came a clear demand. John drove out of the parking lot and headed for the nearest shop. Buying a pack, he got into the car and inhaled with pleasure. For a fraction of a second, the longed-for calm arrived, but with every puff, it receded further. Throwing away the butt, John drove home. His head was in complete turmoil. He drove mechanically, moving in the obedient flow of cars. "I should at least buy some groceries," he said aloud. The supermarket was a couple of steps from his building. John parked near the entrance and decided to walk to the store. He just walked, seeing no one around him. At the supermarket, Miller mechanically filled his cart, not even looking at the items. When he found he had accumulated 4 full bags at the checkout, he was very surprised. But he couldn't put them back, could he? John slowly left the store and strolled leisurely home. "Young man!" a voice came from somewhere far away. Miller didn't immediately realize they were addressing him. He hadn't felt young in a long time. "Young man!" The call was repeated. This time John turned his head towards the source of the sound. A couple of steps away stood a woman in worn clothes, holding the hand of a girl about 6 years old. "I'm sorry to bother you. How can I help?" John replied. The heavy bags were painfully digging into his palms. The only thing he wanted right now was to get home quickly and get rid of this burden. "Sir, could you possibly give us a little money? My daughter is very hungry." To confirm her words, the girl squeaked something. From her appearance, it was clear the child was undernourished. The little girl was very thin, with shadows under her eyes. The mother looked no better. John knew that beggars often played on pity, pretending to be unfortunate. He glanced at the pair. Either the mother and daughter were excellent actresses, or they were truly in need of help. He didn't want to give money, and he didn't have any cash on him anyway. "I don't have any money," he said dryly. "But maybe groceries would help? I bought so much, and it's too much for just me." The woman's eyes lit up. John thought. She doesn't seem to be lying. He handed the stranger 2 heavy bags. "Here, take these. Honestly, I don't remember what's in them, but there's bound to be something. You can go home now and cook." "Thank you so much." Tears welled up in the woman's eyes. "I don't even know how to thank you. People are so cruel now. They don't care about others' troubles. My pride wouldn't let me beg. But what can you do? I feel sorry for my daughter. I don't care about myself." "What happened to you?" John asked, surprising himself. He hadn't intended to talk to a homeless person, but something inside him tightened painfully. He couldn't walk past someone else's sorrow. "Why do you ask?" the woman said, flustered. "Life happened to us. I can't tell you everything. Thank you for the groceries. We'll go now." "Wait!" John suddenly called out after the departing woman. "I can see that things are far from all right with you. If there's anything I can do to help, tell me. I'm in a difficult situation myself right now. I know what it's like when everything in life goes off track." "How can I ask a stranger for anything?" The woman sighed resignedly. "Groceries are one thing, although even that is so much—" "Wait. Firstly, I offered help myself. That's different. Secondly, if you're really in trouble, don't refuse. In a nutshell, briefly, Lucy and I have nowhere to go. We've been living on the streets for 2 weeks now." The woman shifted from foot to foot. John looked at the mother and daughter again. The woman didn't look like she drank, and her clothes, though dirty, seemed decent. Her speech was also articulate, not like someone who had given up. The girl was very quiet, frightened, with huge eyes. "All right," Miller looked around. "Let's do this. I live here in the next building, just a couple of steps away. I live with my mother, but she's at the dacha right now. There's a free room. We'll go there now, and you can tell me everything. You can stay with me for a while until you figure something out." "You?" The woman's eyes widened. The offer somewhat bewildered her. "You don't know us at all, and we don't know you. See? We're essentially in the same position. Don't be scared. There's a concierge in the building. She won't stay silent if anything happens. Don't be afraid, please. I just can't leave you and your daughter on the street now. You probably haven't had a hot meal in days, have you? And who knows what else? I don't even know." The woman was still hesitant. We don't really have a choice. There's always a choice. I'm not taking you captive. You'll eat, drink, get your clothes sorted. You can leave afterwards. But at least my conscience will be clear. All right, the woman agreed, though with hesitation. My name is Kathy, by the way, and my daughter is Lucy. John Miller, the man introduced himself. You can just call me John and use you. John busied himself in the kitchen while Kathy and her daughter tidied up in the bathroom. Mrs. Eleanor Smith, John's mother, was rarely in the city during the summer. She preferred to spend time at the Dhaka. Her son hadn't even had time to tell her anything. I wonder what Mom would say if she were home now, Miller thought. Would she be angry? No, I think, on the contrary, she'd be worried herself. She's not the kind of person to abandon someone in trouble, even strangers. Miller had already finished making the roast when the guests finally appeared in the kitchen. Catherine put on clothes John had prepared for her and her daughter, old t-shirts and sweatpants. When Miller saw the transformed ladies, he was greatly surprised. Catherine looked significantly younger than she had seemed upon meeting. She was a rather young woman, around 30, with long blonde hair and huge grey eyes. The girl was her miniature copy. From their appearance, one could only tell that they hadn't eaten in a long time. Both were very thin. John didn't delay and invited both of them to the table. Well, he said awkwardly, enjoy your meal. I hope my cooking doesn't disappoint you. I made a roast. Just eat slowly, or your stomachs might hurt. Kathy and Lucy began to eat. The girl was shy at first, but her mother reassured her. When dinner was finished, John served tea. Kathy gradually recovered, and a blush even appeared on her cheeks. Lucy, John said to the girl, maybe you want to watch cartoons? Yes, the girl replied uncertainly, and looked at her mother. She nodded. Miller turned on the television in the living room and settled the little girl on the sofa. When he and Kathy were alone in the kitchen, he began to ask questions. Tell me, Catherine, what happened to you? Kathy was silent for a long time, gathering her thoughts. Finally, she decided. I couldn't stand it any more. I just took Lucy Lou some money and left. At that moment, it didn't matter at all where I went. I just wanted to leave that terrible place. Terrible place? In John's imagination, some kind of cell immediately came to mind. Yes, my home. You understand? My husband isn't just a tyrant, he's worse. But Lucy and I have no one but him. I endured his abuse for a very long time, but I reached my limit. The woman burst into tears. Was it really that bad? Did he hit you? Kathy nodded. Another couple of minutes passed before she could continue. I married Mike very young. I wasn't even 20 yet. My parents died in an accident. I was completely alone then, and Mike seemed like a real hero. He courted me beautifully, carried me in his arms. Only 3 months after we met, he took me to the registry office. I saw no reason to refuse, because back then I thought I loved him. We lived quite well. My husband worked at a bank and earned good money, but he didn't allow me to work. In his opinion, a wife should take care of the household and children. I didn't protest much, although even then I should have wondered what kind of person he was. Until Lucy was born, he didn't allow himself anything like that. Of course, he would show his temper sometimes, pick fights. He wouldn't let me leave the house for anything. I had to stop communicating with all my friends. For 5 years, I couldn't get pregnant, and this drove Mike crazy. He accused me of infertility, of being inadequate as a woman. And then suddenly I found out I was going to be a mother. I don't even know how it happened. I didn't get any special tests. God just sent the child. Throughout the pregnancy, Mike was literally beaming with happiness. He really wanted a son. At the same time, he didn't allow me to find out the baby's gender beforehand. He just believed it would be a boy. That's all. And then a girl was born. Yes, John sighed. Yes, Kathy nodded. And from that moment on, he was like a different person. He literally hated me and Lucy Lou. He never loved her, but he tried not to show it openly, especially to his parents and friends. No, he bought her everything, didn't deny her anything, but he didn't feel fatherly affection. And his attitude towards me changed completely. If before Mike might just snap, be rude, ignore me for half a day after Lucy was born, he often started hitting me. It started with slaps. If I raised my voice, that punishment would immediately follow. I endured it. Well, and then it got worse. One day, Mike came home drunk. I went into the bedroom to avoid getting on his bad side. When he came in, I pretended to be asleep, but that apparently didn't suit him. He started waking me up, beat me very badly. The pain was unbearable. I screamed. Lucy woke up. Even the neighbours knocked on the door. There was blood everywhere. But Mike, he has connections everywhere. He quickly hushed it up, threatened to kill me if I reported him to the police. I was a fool. I shouldn't have listened to him then. I shouldn't have been afraid. And what would I have told the police? That my husband beats me? People live like that. In the end, this habit became systemic for my husband. He started getting drunk often after work, and beatings inevitably followed. I had nowhere to go, and I was afraid to go to the police. Did he hit you every day? No, not every day. When he came home sober, he would pretend nothing had happened, even tried to show some affection, took me places. He also hit me in a way that only left marks on my body. He understood that marks on my face would attract attention, and it wasn't fitting for his status to have a wife like that. His parents and our friends often visited. What about his parents? Didn't they even suspect? Of course they suspected. When I told my mother-in-law, she just laughed at me, told me not to dare slander her son. When I showed her the bruises, she said, "You're running around God knows where with men, they give you bruises, and here I am pretending to be a saint." But what men? I never had anyone but Mike, and my father-in-law. He even felt sorry for me, but he said, "You're a wife, you have to endure it, that's all." Can you imagine? Kathy burst into tears. It was clear that the memories were causing her great pain. This went on for almost 6 years. I was simply living in hell. Mike became more and more sophisticated. The real nightmare happened when Lucy was taken by her grandparents. All weekend, he kept me on a leash. I don't want to describe all the details to you. It went on endlessly. The last time, he outdid himself. I needed to go to the hospital, but he ordered me not to. When Mike saw I was covered in blood, he finally took pity and they took me away. It turned out I had a miscarriage. I begged the doctor not to tell my husband about it. Seeing the bruises and abrasions on my body, the doctor said he would immediately contact the police. But I still insisted on keeping it a secret. I just said I had fallen badly from a stepladder at home. We were renovating one of the rooms. The doctor shook his head, but couldn't do anything without my consent. I would have, but he agreed not to inform Mike about the miscarriage. I just knew that if he found out, he would simply kill me. It wouldn't have mattered that he was the cause of what happened. When I was discharged from the hospital, he was already waiting for me at home. He didn't even come to pick me up. Can you imagine? Most of all, I was afraid for Lucy, but thank God she was staying with her grandparents the whole time and had a good time. Is it appropriate to call it that? Mike went on a business trip. Usually he didn't travel like that, but there was some conference or seminar. He had to go for 2 weeks. That's when I realized it was my chance. I had to run without looking back. I just couldn't live in constant fear and pain anymore. But where to go? He didn't give me money. I only scraped together enough for groceries, but that amount quickly ran out. I packed my things as soon as he left and didn't tell anyone anything. It was dangerous, especially since I have no relatives or friends. I asked my father-in-law for a little money, supposedly to buy Lucy some things. I think he understood everything. That man is the only one who ever tried to help me in any way, but he lived under his wife's thumb his whole life, afraid to go against her will. Should I judge him? After all, I was in much the same position. And what did you do? Where did you go? That's just it, nowhere. I rented a cheap room in a different district, far from the old apartment. I thought about getting a job, but I had Lucy Lou with me, and I couldn't place her anywhere. There was no money for kindergarten or a nanny. The money ran out in 3 months, you see. If I had been alone, I would have somehow managed. I found a small part-time job. I went to wash floors in the evenings. John looked at this fragile girl. It was clear she wasn't used to physical labour. He imagined how hard it must have been for her to decide on such low-paying work. I have no education, no experience. Where else could I go? Besides, I was very afraid that Mike would find us. Before I got married, I was studying, but after my parents died, I dropped out. And Mike didn't let me at all. Just the house, the family hearth, damn it. So now I'm 31, with a child to care for, and a constant feeling of fear. All of this can be resolved. I understand you're scared and the circumstances are difficult, but I can help. And how did you end up on the streets? How long has this been going on? We lived in the room for 3 months. When the money ran out, I persuaded the landlady to let us stay on credit for a while longer, but at some point her patience ran out and we simply had to leave and go onto the streets. At first, we were at the train station. I tried to get into a rehabilitation centre, but I thought Mike could easily find us there, so we just wandered around. I had to quit my job because I had nowhere to leave Lucy. And then I had to swallow my pride and start begging. I knew it was the end, but there was still hope for a miracle. And here it is. Catherine tried to smile but started crying again. John put an arm around her shoulders and tried to comfort her. Kathy, listen. I won't promise anything, but I think I can help. Stay with me for now. My mother will be back from the dacha soon, of course, but she's an understanding woman. She won't kick you out onto the street. I have a friend who owns a private clinic. How about getting you a job there as an administrator? It's not a great job, but you have to start somewhere, and then we'll see. Really? A mixture of joy and doubt was reflected in Kathy's huge eyes. I'll do all the housework. I don't want you to think I'm a freeloader. What about your husband? You'll have to get a divorce. Since you have a small child, it will have to be through court. He'll take Lucy. You understand there's little chance she'll be left with me? I have no job, no home, and he has money, an apartment, influence. Come on. Everything can always be sorted out. I have influential acquaintances too. Among them are several good lawyers, even a judge and a couple of prosecutors. Do you work in law enforcement? No, not even close. I'm a surgeon, or rather, I was, until today. How so? Kathy was surprised. I was fired today. A patient died on the operating table, and although it wasn't my fault, his relatives are convinced otherwise. He was a difficult person. I don't even know what to do now. In any case, I won't let this stand. But for now, I had to make concessions to the chief physician. I'll sue. There's nothing else left. Right now, I need to pull myself together. John and Kathy sat in the kitchen for a little while longer, talking, after which the woman went to bed. Lucy was already sleeping peacefully with the television on. Kathy gently picked up the girl and carried her to the bedroom. "What are you saying?" Mrs. Eleanor Smith's voice sounded extremely agitated. "Fired! How dare they? You can't find a specialist like you for love or money." "Mom, it's too long to explain everything over the phone. I don't want to. Come over then. You don't have anything to do right now anyway, and I could really use some help here. I'm redoing the flower bed, and digging is hard for me alone. Will you come? All right, I'll come then, closer to evening. I need to finish a few other things. I'll be waiting, son. You haven't done anything foolish, have you? Mom, stop it. All right, see you soon. Miller hung up. He had just woken up, and the conversation with his mother had fully roused him. I'll have to go. All right, I'll hope for Kathy's decency. I sense she's not the kind of person to repay kindness with malice. John went into the kitchen. To his surprise, Kathy was already bustling about with housework. She had managed to tidy up and prepare breakfast. A steaming cup of coffee was already on the table. I heard you wake up and decided to quickly make some coffee. Is it all right that I'm taking over the kitchen? Of course, Miller smiled. Make yourself at home. Honestly, I didn't expect breakfast. How else? I did it mechanically for so many years, and here, for the first time, with pleasure. I just don't know if you eat scrambled eggs and all this. John looked at the set table with surprise. Kathy had managed to prepare not only scrambled eggs, a huge pile of steaming Serneke, cottage cheese pancakes, was on the plate. He hadn't seen anything like it since childhood. Wow, Serneke! I haven't had them in ages, and they're just like Dad used to make. I never saw Serneke like this from Mrs. Eleanor Smith. It was his signature dish. After the divorce, Mum erased Dad from her life, and Serneke ended up on the forbidden list. John eagerly devoured the contents of the plates. By the way, I got the recipe from my father too. Apparently some men have the same weaknesses. Dad often made them, and then I learned. What a coincidence, he remarked. Has she been up long? I gave her a pencil and paper. She's drawing. My daughter loves doing that. Great, Kathy said, genuinely pleased. Maybe you need something too. We could go together. Kathy was flustered. I don't really want to go out unnecessarily. Okay, I understand. No problem. Just tell me what to buy and I'll bring it. As you can see, I don't have many women's things. Nothing is needed, thank you, the girl replied modestly. Well, suit yourself, Miller shook his head. No need to be shy. I'm not shy, Kathy blushed. I just don't know what I need. You have such a house, it seems like everything is here. Kathy, Miller suddenly began, finally deciding to inform her about his departure. Here's the thing. I need to go away for about 3 days. Can you manage here without me? I'll buy groceries. If you need anything, order delivery. I'll leave you my card. How can that be? Kathy was frightened. Are you really going to leave us alone in the apartment? You don't know me at all. What if something happens? Like a global flood? Go down to the concierge. She has the numbers for all the emergency services. I'll tell the desk that my sister and niece have come to stay, so they'll know. I won't even go out anywhere. That's fine, but can you take Lucy out into the yard? The girl needs fresh air. Our yard is enclosed. There are no strangers here. Go out the back of the building. I'll show you everything. I'll be back from downtown quickly. We'll discuss everything, okay? Kathy stood by the stove, utterly bewildered. She hadn't expected this amazing man to show her such trust. John arrived in Colladino in the evening. The Dacha village wasn't far from the city, but the roads were jammed with cars. His mother met him in the garden. The Miller Dacha was located in a picturesque spot, surrounded by forest on 2 sides. John loved these pine trees, the air saturated with the scent of resin and needles. The vegetable garden occupied a small area. Mrs. Eleanor Smith's main pride wasn't the vegetable beds at all. Flower beds were laid out everywhere, hundreds of shades already fragrant. Mrs. Eleanor Smith knew some secret, the neighbours believed, gasping and exclaiming over her luxurious flower beds. But the woman herself claimed that her only fertilizer was love. John talked with his mother. This woman had long since passed her 60s, but that didn't prevent her from looking great and staying active. When his father left, this woman was left alone with a 7-year-old son. Of course it was hard, but it wasn't the exhausting work and daily chores that weighed her down. On the contrary, physical labor helped Mrs. Eleanor Smith not think about her ex-husband. Robert was dearly loved by her. Eleanor tried to please her husband in everything, managing the household, raising her son, rushing to work, and taking care of herself. But one day, Johnny had just started first grade then, Robert came home from work and simply started packing his things. Eleanor thought her husband was going on a business trip, but he took her hand and, looking her straight in the eyes, told her he had fallen in love with someone else. What Eleanor heard seemed like a foolish joke to her. Robert was explaining something, but the words didn't even register with Eleanor. When the door closed behind her husband, she finally came to her senses. At first, she tried to get him back, even tracked down where Robert was living now. She saw the other woman. From the outside, the couple seemed happy. That's when Eleanor realized her husband was gone for good. She didn't make a scene, but simply erased him from her life. One day, Robert came to see his son. That's when Eleanor told him everything she thought and asked him not to appear again. Since he had chosen another life, he should not remember the old one. Robert understood. John never saw him again. When Robert died, John wasn't informed. Miller didn't grieve much. He barely remembered Robert. His mother had convinced him that this man wasn't worthy of being called a father. "Johnny!" Mrs. Eleanor Smith exclaimed happily. "I'm so glad to see you. How are you? Let's go inside quickly and you can tell me what happened." "Mom, honestly, I don't even want to explain all this. The situation is bad. I'll be suing now." John told his mother everything. The woman listened in silence, only occasionally shaking her head. "How could Sarah allow such a thing? I just don't understand." "Mum, don't worry about it. It's definitely not your problem." "How is it not mine?" Mrs. Eleanor Smith threw up her hands. "You're my son. I know how hard you've worked, and now they're just ruining your life's work. It's not right." "What honor are you talking about? In this world, money and connections decide everything. If that's the case, then I won't give up either. And I have those connections. I've saved the lives of quite a few influential people. I think many will gladly agree to help me." "That's right. All right. You'll rest a little now, and then, you see, you'll tackle things with renewed strength. If only you'd also sort out your personal life." "Mom!" Miller looked at her sternly. "How many times have we talked about this? Family isn't for me, and the fact that I'm out of work now isn't a reason to think otherwise. It's temporary." "I just want grandchildren," his mother sighed. "I'm not young anymore. Time is passing, and I still haven't held a grandchild." "Don't be sad," John hugged Mrs. Eleanor Smith. "Grandchildren aren't everything. Look how well you've done. The flower beds are beyond praise this year. The neighbors are probably all green with envy." "Oh, don't even mention it. I want to—" "On that plot over there." The woman gestured vaguely somewhere. "Will you help me dig a little there? We just need to dismantle the old shed. It spoils the whole view." "That's what I came for," Miller laughed. "All right, give me a crowbar and a shovel, and I'll start right now." "Are you crazy? It's night time already. We'll start in the morning. Let's go. I'll feed you some pies first, your favorites with green onions." They settled in the summer kitchen. John listened to the chirping of crickets and admired the sunset sky. "It's nice here," he thought. "Maybe I should drop everything, move to the countryside, take up farming. I've saved enough money. What do I need so much for, being alone? And medicine. What can you do when material principles take precedence over moral ones? I'll never accept that. Mom, he suddenly said. Yes, son? Mrs. Eleanor Smith seemed to have dozed off already. I need to tell you something. Well, his mother squinted. I don't like your tone. Anyway, Miller began, yesterday I was coming home from work, completely shattered, and I met a woman with a child. They were standing there looking so lost, hungry, so I gave them 2 bags of groceries. That's right, son. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a good deed. That's not all. They'll be staying with us for a while. What? His mother looked at Miller uncomprehendingly. What do you mean, staying? Mom, Kathy and Lucy are in a very difficult situation. They have nowhere to go. I just couldn't leave them in trouble. John recounted everything Catherine had told him to his mother. The woman just gasped. Johnny, but still, how could you leave complete strangers alone in the apartment? We have valuables, electronics there. What electronics, Mom? Miller threw up his hands. They won't take anything. The girls are scared to death. All they need right now is a warm place. I want to help Kathy get a job. I don't know why, but she inspired my trust. Uh-huh. Think about it yourself. How many people would agree to let her into their home like that? It's a dubious arrangement. You could wait your whole life like that. No, she's telling the truth. You should have seen them. Lucy is almost transparent. A girl her age needs to eat well. If I can help them, it's my duty. I've spent my whole life saving people with my hands. Why can't I do it with my heart? Mrs. Eleanor Smith looked at her son for a long time. Doubt was in her eyes, but she was still proud that she had raised such a man. Trust, but verify, she finally said. When you get back, try to find out at least something about this woman. 3 days flew by unnoticed. Miller finished all the necessary work at the dacha and was getting ready to go back to the city. Mrs. Eleanor Smith asked to come with him, but the man refused. He needed to prepare Catherine for his mother's arrival. At the same time, he wanted to make sure the woman had met his expectations. Mum, maybe I should bring them here instead. Lucy will really like it here. And Catherine. She's not afraid of physical work. She can help you around the house. Oh, son, I don't even know. All right, you've always been a smart boy. I hope you haven't made a mistake this time. Bring them. We'll see what kind of people they are. Glad Mom gave in, John thought. It was hard to argue with that woman, but no matter what, she was a good person. Getting ready, he drove home. The road didn't take long. Few people returned to the city on weekdays. When Miller pulled up to the building, he looked at the windows for a long time. Nothing indicated the presence of occupants in the apartment. For a moment, he was even scared. Had Kathy run away? The door was locked from the inside. He rang the doorbell. A few seconds later, Kathy opened it. She seemed happy. The look of fear had vanished from her face, and her cheeks no longer seemed hollow. I'm back, Miller announced and entered the apartment. How are you doing? Lucy ran out to meet him. She froze in the doorway and examined Miller with interest with her huge eyes. Everything's fine, Kathy smiled. And we're drawing. Thank you so much for the paints. I've never seen Lucy Lou so happy. Is that so? Well then, show me your masterpieces. I'll go make some tea for now. Let me do it, Kathy offered. By the way, I've already made lunch too. Wow, Miller exclaimed, sniffing the air. I can smell something so delicious. Then let's go to the kitchen quickly. Despite the early breakfast, I won't refuse a treat. Lucy ran into the room and soon returned, carrying a whole stack of drawings. While Kathy set the table, the girl showed off her masterpieces to Miller. For a 6-year-old, Lucy drew quite well. John was even surprised. Kathy, I think you should enroll the girl in art school. She has obvious talent. Really, I'd love to, but... John didn't let her finish. He looked at the girl seriously. "Lucy, tell me, do you want to learn to draw like real artists?" "Yes," the girl replied modestly and looked at her mother. She nodded. "Then I suggest you enroll in a school, a special place where they teach drawing. If you're interested, we can go and sign up tomorrow." Lucy just looked at her mother without saying anything. The girl's eyes lit up. It was clear that John's offer interested her. "But that's probably very expensive," Kathy said, flustered. "All right, I don't want to hear that again. Expensive or not expensive, what does it matter if the child has talent? It's worth developing it so you don't blame yourself later. I'll pay for everything. You shouldn't worry about it. If you, Kathy, are uncomfortable with that, let's agree on this. When you get back on your feet, you can pay me back later. Okay?" "Is that possible?" The woman was surprised. "Anything is possible. I live alone. I have nowhere to spend my money, so I can afford to spend it on something worthwhile." After lunch, Miller thanked Catherine for the delicious meal. He noted to himself that the girl cooked very well. "I'm going to take a nap. I'm tired from the road and got up very early. By the way, if you like, we can go to the Dasher together in a few days. You'll like it there." "That might not be very convenient," Kathy hesitated, "especially since your mother is there." "Mom already knows. I told her everything." "Seriously? And how did she react? She was probably angry that you brought beggars into the house." "Firstly, not beggars, but people in trouble. There's a huge difference. Secondly, she was angry, of course, but she got over it quickly. She understands everything. After all, she raised me, so I got many of my character traits from her. She never went out into nature. Only once did we all go to the sea together, but her daughter was just a baby then and doesn't remember anything." "All the more reason to go. All right, I'll rest and then we can figure something out." Miller retreated to the bedroom. He fell asleep almost immediately. The emotional strain had taken its toll. When the man woke up, the apartment was very quiet. Kathy and Lucy were also resting. He quietly left the bedroom. Passing the living room, he saw Catherine sitting with her back to him out of the corner of his eye. She was quietly sobbing, discreetly dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. John coughed. Kathy started and turned around, immediately wiping away her tears with the sleeve of her sweatshirt. "Sorry, I didn't mean to." "No, it's fine. I was just thinking." "Why are you crying? What do you have there?" "It's a photo of my parents." Kathy handed Miller an old, faded photograph. "It's all I have left of them. When I ran away from home, all I grabbed were my documents and this photo." John carefully took the piece of glossy cardboard she offered him. It showed two happy people. The man was tenderly embracing the woman, whose eyes sparkled with happiness. Miller's breath caught in his throat. "What is it?" Kathy asked, concerned, seeing that John's face had changed. Is this your parents?" "Yes," the woman nodded. "And what were their names? Mom was Helen, and Dad was Bobby." "My God," Miller whispered and sank heavily onto the sofa. "John, are you all right? You've gone so pale. Let me get you some water." Without waiting for an answer, Kathy jumped up from the living room and was back with a glass of water in a few seconds. Miller drank it down greedily. "Thank you," he mumbled. "You scared me so much. Do you have low blood pressure? My mother-in-law used to go pale and faint like that. She had low blood pressure." "No, Kathy, it's not my blood pressure. Wait, I need to process this information." "What information?" The woman was surprised. "Did my parents upset you somehow?" "They didn't just upset me, Kathy Kins. You'll understand everything yourself now." Miller abruptly stood up from the sofa and went to a large chest of drawers. He opened the bottom drawer and took out two heavy velvet photo albums. Such albums used to be very popular. Each had corners for family photos where precious moments of the past were forever captured. John frantically flipped through the heavy cardboard pages with his fingers. What he needed wasn't coming into view. Mrs. Eleanor Smith kept everything but that one photo. Had she thrown it away? Among the empty pages, John found the photo. The card was about 35 years old. That was the last time the whole family went to the sea together. With a trembling hand, Miller picked up the corner of the black and white photograph. He looked at it for a long time. From the picture, a smiling little boy with a sunburned nose smeared with sour cream looked back at him. The boy was sitting on the lap of a mustached man. Slowly, Miller walked over to Kathy and held out the photograph to her. The woman looked at the picture, bewildered. She knew this mustached man very well. His gaze only looked stern in photos. In life, her father was very kind and often laughed. "How is this possible?" Kathy looked at Miller. "Where did you get a photo of my father? I don't understand. When was this?" "Almost 40 years ago. You weren't even born yet," John sighed. "His father was also named Bobby." "It can't be!" Kathy jumped up from the sofa. It was clear how tense her body had become. "Things like this don't happen." "As you see, they do." Miller's gaze swept the emptiness. The man couldn't gather his thoughts. "It's just a coincidence. The name is common, and in old Soviet photos men often looked alike. I get it. It's the mustache." "Kathy," John stood up and took the girl's hands. "You know perfectly well it's not about the mustache. Your father and my father are the same man." The confusion on the woman's face was hard to describe. Emotions changed one after another. Finally, she couldn't bear it and cried. Miller held her tightly to his chest and stroked her blonde hair for a long time. The next day, Miller took Kathy and Lucy to the dacha. The newly found relatives somehow both became silent at once. It was hard to find words. "I'll tell Mom myself," Miller broke the silence. "Of course," Kathy nodded. "I wouldn't have even thought of blurting it all out to her right away." They hadn't told Lucy anything yet. For a child, the appearance of a biological uncle probably wouldn't be such a shock. But for now, John and Catherine decided not to rush. Too much had happened in the past week. Mrs. Eleanor Smith was waiting for them. Having finished all the housework, she had tidied up. When the whole group got out of the car, the woman looked at the guests with suspicion. "Mom!" Miller called out happily to her. "I'm not alone, as I promised. Meet them, Catherine, Mrs. Eleanor Smith, and this charming young lady's name is Lucy." "Hello," Kathy said modestly. Lucy also squeaked something. Mrs. Eleanor Smith's stern face broke into a smile at the sight of the girl. She loved children very much. She couldn't resist their sincere simplicity. "Good afternoon, girls. I'm happy to see you. Why are we standing here? Come into the house quickly. I'll make lunch now. You must be tired from the journey. Are you hungry?" "I can help," Kathy said, encouraged. "Oh no, I can manage myself." "Mum, it's impolite to refuse, especially since Catherine cooks wonderfully. I was surprised by the serniki myself." "Serniki?" His mother grew wary. Apparently, the mention of this dish stirred up some unpleasant memories in her soul. "Yes," John smiled. "You'll be surprised, but they're exactly like the ones Dad used to make." At the mention of Robert, Mrs. Eleanor Smith winced. So many years had passed, and she still couldn't forgive her ex-husband for his betrayal. For this proud woman, there was nothing worse than such an abandonment of the family. "Well, we won't be making serniki now," the woman replied carelessly. "If you really want to help, please come to the kitchen. And you, Johnny, show the girl the garden for now." "Well, Lucy Lou," John winked at the little girl, "do you want to see the most beautiful flowers in the world?" "The very most?" The girl's eyes widened. They don't get any more beautiful. Let's go together." They walked into the garden. Lucy ran from one flower bed to another, inhaling the scent of the beautiful blossoms. "And there are berries there too," John called out to the little girl. "Do you like berries? The raspberries are ripe." "I don't know," the girl shrugged uncertainly. "Don't tell me you've never eaten raspberries." "I have, but I've definitely never tasted ones like these." John went to the bushes and picked a handful of large red berries. She cautiously took one berry and put it in her mouth. Her eyes immediately lit up with delight. "Delicious! Can I have another one?" "Of course, you can eat them all if you want. The whole garden is yours." Lucy laughed and ran towards the bushes. She was so happy that Miller involuntarily laughed too. He settled into a deck chair and turned his face to the sun. "Lunch!" his mother's voice called. John woke from his half-sleep. Lucy had eaten her fill of berries. Her whole face was smeared with juice. "My goodness, look, you're all messy. Let's go quickly and wash up, or Mom will scold you." Lucy obediently followed Miller. He turned on the garden hose. The girl cupped her hands and began washing her face with abandon. She got completely soaked. When they came to the summer kitchen, Mrs. Eleanor Smith and Catherine had already set the table. The women had made okroshka, cold soup. Steam rose from the boiled potatoes sprinkled with green onions, and next to them, on a large platter, was a pile of appetizing fried chicken. "Wow!" John exclaimed. "A real country feast." "And most importantly," Mrs. Eleanor Smith remarked, "they did it all so quickly. Kathy Kins has golden hands. You weren't kidding when you said she cooks wonderfully. Thank you for bringing a helper." Miller noted to himself that Catherine had already turned into Kathy Kins. His mother didn't warm up to people that quickly. Apparently, this girl had found a way to win the heart of this proud woman. John liked this very much, as a very serious conversation was still ahead. When lunch was over, Lucy was taken into the house. The little girl had dozed off right on the bench. Mrs. Eleanor Smith took Kathy into the garden to show off her favourites. Miller followed them. When the tour of the hostess's domain, which had delighted Kathy, was finished, everyone settled in the gazebo for conversation. Kathy, unused to so much fresh air, began to doze off. John escorted her into the house and settled her next to the sleeping Lucy. Returning to the garden, he sat down next to his mother. "Mommy," John began coaxingly, "well, what do you think of the girls?" "Wonderful," Mrs. Eleanor Smith exclaimed. "Honestly, I didn't expect it. I thought you'd bring some drunk, all bruised up. But this is such a decent girl, and her daughter is simply lovely. Quiet, surprised by everything. It's clear the child hasn't been spoiled. Yes, if only you had a wife like that with a child right away, I'd accept her as my own granddaughter." That's what I wanted to talk about. "Johnny?" His mother looked at him in surprise. "Are you saying you've fallen in love with Kathy? Only a week has passed. I was just joking." "I have fallen in love, Mum, but not in the way you imagine." "How so?" Mrs. Eleanor Smith looked at him uncomprehendingly. "Can you love someone in a different way?" "I brought something. You need to see it." With these words, Miller took an envelope from his pocket. He carefully pulled out his photograph. "Here, take a look. You remember it, don't you?" Mrs. Eleanor Smith took the card he held out to her. She sighed deeply. "Where did you dig this up? I thought I had thrown away all of Bobby's pictures." "I kept it myself. After all, he wasn't just your husband, but my father too." "Ex-husband," the woman objected. "Yes, but not an ex-father," Miller countered. "Mum, I know this conversation isn't very pleasant for you. Dad hurt you badly, and you never managed to forgive him. But surely you must have found out how he was living. I refuse to believe that your female curiosity didn't overcome your pride." "You're right, Johnny." His mother sighed deeply. "However things were, I always loved your father. He hurt me badly, and perhaps I was wrong not to let you communicate. And he suffered greatly. I didn't even accept money from him, although life wasn't particularly easy for me. Pride is to blame for everything. You can't get rid of it. I know he found happiness with his Helen. There was nothing left for me but to accept it. What was the point of making scenes, trying to get him back with threats or deceit? We wouldn't have built happiness on that anyway. And then he had a daughter. What reason did I have to interfere with them? So I forgot, and I instilled the same in you. And then, the accident. I never even told you about it. Bobby and his wife were coming back from some celebration. Their neighbor told me about it. I went to the funeral. You never even told me? What was there to tell? How a drunk man in a Volga car crashed into them. There's no point discussing it now. I made a lot of mistakes. But I had a right to know. He was still my father. Bobby died instantly, Mrs. Eleanor Smith continued, sighing. And they tried to resuscitate Helen, but it didn't work. She was operated on in your hospital, by the way, but you were just starting out then. I don't even know who the surgeon was. She didn't survive. They had a daughter. I don't even know where she is now. She's about 10 years younger than you. I only saw her briefly at the funeral. A blonde girl, ash blonde, just like your Kathy. Very similar. Mom, Miller gathered his thoughts. Kathy is my sister. What? Mrs. Eleanor Smith tensed up with surprise. It can't be. She looks similar, of course, but you shouldn't jump to such a conclusion just based on my story. Where did you get that idea? John took a second photograph from the envelope and gave it to his mother. I saw this photo in Kathy's hands when I came home. These are her parents. I was paralyzed at first when I saw my father, and then I showed her that other card. Are you saying that? Yes, there can be no doubt. Catherine is Dad's daughter from his second marriage. Therefore, she is my sister. But that's just incredible. Can you imagine how slim the chances were of you meeting, especially under the circumstances you described? There are no coincidences, Mommy. Miller hugged her. Apparently, someone up there decided that family should be together. They've had enough suffering. Now everything will be all right. With Lucy. You want to hold a grandchild, don't you? A granddaughter, Mom. A granddaughter. Everything you wanted. But no need to wake her. There's plenty of time. Mrs. Eleanor Smith hugged her son and looked at the windows of her old dacha, at the room where mother and daughter were now sleeping peacefully. A blissful smile played on her face.